Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze's not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also they picked out the Bears as the winner.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Donnie's not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line. It is hour number 2 on this Thursday. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. 2 more hours to go up until 11 a.m. Eastern time. And Donnie, any time in the month of May, we can focus on my 2 favorite sports, college football and basketball. It is going to be a good time. There has been a lot of chatter this week out of Colorado. Deion Sanders and his son and quarterback Shedeur Sanders. We'll break down everything, give you the timeline of what has occurred and our reactions to it as we get excited for a new college football season. Any time in the month of May that college football can dominate the sports headlines, it's a good thing in my estimation.
Football in itself, yesterday I believe A.J. Brown spoke to the press here in Philadelphia, and they started showing some highlights. And Ben, I was like, can we just get to September already to get the football season? I love baseball. I love the summer. I love the relaxation. I love the slowdown and a little bit more time off that we get. But there's just something when we start talking about football. It's like, and again, we're in May now. But it used to be, Ben, we're in late February. Now it's March. Now it's April. We're in May. You start flipping it over, and next thing you know, we are starting football practice before you can know it in the summer. But it's great to talk about it here. It sort of livens the conversation because football is 24/7, 365. And here we go. College football in the news. Fantastic. Love it. The NFL, love it as well. It's great stuff.
Spring ball for pretty much every FBS program came to a close last weekend. We saw spring games this past Saturday, but now it's really a focus on the school year ending on college campuses, getting those football players back by the time we reach the end of May, early June for summer workouts into fall camp. And before you know it, we're getting ready for 2024. So let's talk about what is happening in Boulder. Earlier this week, Max Olson of The Athletic released an article that spoke to all 53 scholarship players that entered the transfer portal from Colorado a year ago. All 53 that left entering Deion Sanders' first year, where they are now and what happened with their treatment with the Buffaloes. A lot of them mentioned degrading and demeaning comments from Deion Sanders, who infamously, after his introductory press conference, walked into the Colorado locker room and said, listen, you boys better start packing because I already got my luggage and it's Louis. It's one thing to restore and rebuild a roster that won a single game the year prior to Deion Sanders arriving in Boulder. It's another thing to treat college athletes in a degrading manner. So, for some of the quotes that came out from that story, DRS, mainly featuring a man by the name of Xavier Smith, who went on this past season to be an FCS freshman All-American at Austin Peay, Shedeur Sanders, again, Deion's son, the quarterback for the Buffs, took to social media earlier this week to quote tweet one of those quotes and said, "I don't even remember this guy. He must have been very mid," meaning average, not all that great. It amplified yesterday morning when Deion Sanders, the 50-plus-year-old head coach of an FBS football program, also got involved in the social media chatter to degrade college athletes. That's where it took a turn. What has your reaction been, DRS, to all of this interaction on social media that we have seen out of the Colorado Stars, Deion and Shedeur?
This is, pro football is now college football. We can agree upon this. Now, I'm more of the old school person that says to myself, okay, I don't think the college kids should be paid because basically they're going to the next level the same way any other college kid is. You're not getting paid to go to school. You learn your craft, then you go turn pro in whatever field you're going to here. Now, granted, we knew that wasn't going to last, and now players are getting paid. But also, there's a lot of people out here that are upset with the way Colorado is doing business. But if you like the players getting paid NIL money, this is a new landscape here. It used to be, Ben, how many times did you be able to sit in a living room with a college coach and the parents would ask the questions, can I get a good education? But the one thing is scholarships are renewable year to year to year. But under the old landscape, it was, a no-no if you said, okay, I'm going to bring a kid as a freshman in. At the end of the season, I'm going to tell them, look, your scholarship is no longer available. College coaches, unlike, can make that decision. But the high school coaches, they take notes on, I'm never sending a kid to your school again the way you did him dirty. Sure. This is brand new. But also, the reason why Colorado made a lot of money last year off the field is because they brought in Deion Sanders to film every single thing they did as a reality show. The one thing that we're not used to seeing is behind closed doors. Coaches do this all the time. They'll bring him into the office. Hey, look, close that door. I don't think you're right for this program. You're more than welcome to stay, but I'm going to tell you right now, I got 4 players ahead of you next year. The chance of you actually seeing the field are going to be slim to none. So what does that kid usually do? I'm going to end up transferring. Well, Deion puts that on camera here as that job interview and embarrasses some of these individuals. Now, there is a referendum that's going to happen with Colorado and the way these athletics are going to play out. Because if Deion's style does work, Ben, over the next 3 to 4 years, and I don't mean Deion wins back-to-back national championships. They're 500 or better, making bowl games, and maybe now with the expanded playoffs, making it in there. Every college coach is going to see what happens. It goes, I can just kick out anybody I want and just hit that transfer portal, which might even be more important, Ben, than bringing in the freshman out of high school because it's true free agency. Hey, you go to Arizona State. After a year, you're not happy there. I liked you anyway. You come over here. We'll get you a bag and set you up. That's the issue that we're going to have. I don't have any issue with what's happening in Colorado because that is the landscape now. We're no longer talking about an amateur process. These guys are high-paid individuals, and everything is built around social media. You are going to get these conflicts. Is it a great look for Colorado? No, it's not. But if it works, nobody will care. I promise you that. And by the way, next year, Folsom Field, still going to be sold out as well.
We'll see about that. But a couple of things here that I will say. We're not debating the NIL era. This is how Deion Sanders has constructed his roster. Last year, 54 transfers, 53 former scholarship players. This year, 44 players have transferred out, the most in college football. But Deion has also brought in 34. He has never been to an in-home recruiting trip for a high school athlete. Not his style. Is it the correct way of constructing a roster? We shall see. What the issue is with this current instance is that Deion Sanders, a football coach, a leader of men, is taking to social media like kids to degrade fellow college athletes. That's not okay by my standards. That should not be what the leader of your organization is doing. How he constructs his roster, that's a very different story. But ultimately, with all the talk and conversation, what needs to happen is wins. There is no debating. The biggest story in college football the month of September in 2023 was Colorado. They knock off the reigning national runner-ups in TCU on the road week number 1. They hammer Nebraska week number 2. They win the Rocky Mountain Showdown against Colorado State before they get put in their place in a big way by Oregon. Colorado started off 4-2, middle of October, never won another game. 4-8. This year, DRS, it's a lot of talk for a team that has a win total of 5.5. You just said, if Deion Sanders' style has success, every other college coach is going to follow. That's not correct. And success would be what? 5 wins? A bowl game? Is that true success that sets your team and your program up for success not just one year, but year after year? That is the basis of successful tenures and programs in college football. Again, it's a lot of talk, but Colorado needs to back that up. And what does backing it up look like for the Buffaloes this year? Bare minimum 6 wins, bare minimum bowl eligibility.
Yeah, and by the way, they're great for college football because you always need to have a segment of fans that loves that team and an even larger segment that actually hates that team and wants to see them get pasted on a week-to-week basis. That's why the ratings were so high last year. Not necessarily for people tuning in like, hey, this is really fun in Colorado. It was people tuning in hoping they lose. But having that aspect, some of these kids are making way more money than their actual coaches are. That's why we're seeing this new millennium. And when I say like this is going to work, the old school guys aren't going to do it this way. But that next wave of coaches that's going to come up over the next 5 and 10 years, if Colorado works, that's what other institutions that are down in their luck are going to look forward to. We're saying, hey, get me a guy like Deion, shake it up, put it on camera. We'll make a ton of money at the box office, and we'll see how it works. This is the new amateur athletics because they're no longer amateurs. They're professional athletes and will be treated as such. They're no longer college amateurs. They're not.
We're arguing 2 different things. We'll continue the conversation next.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cash the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from what's not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the 2 games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Colorado is going to have attention and eyeballs to start off the 2024 college football season, as they did in the opening month of September a year ago. But how long does it last? Because at a certain point, notoriety needs to be met with success. 5.5 is the win total for the Buffaloes. The over has a slight bit of juice. Is 6 wins and bowl eligibility enough? Hey, it would be growth for a team that won just a single game under Carl Durrell back in 2022. In 2023, they won 4, although they lost their final 6 games of the year. And now 6 wins in year 2 in their first year back in the Big 12 would be a step in the right direction. But is it a step in the right direction in the way that Deion Sanders has constructed his Buffalo roster? DRS, the first week of the year, opening Thursday night of the season, there is going to be so many eyeballs on Colorado's opener, which would be the case. But now in a standalone primetime game on Thursday, August 29th, it ratchets up just a little bit more. And Colorado opens the year against an FCS opponent. You hear those words, you would probably say, hey, it's a game the Buffaloes are going to win by at least multiple touchdowns. I'm not so sure. Colorado takes on North Dakota State, the powerhouse of FCS football. 4 championships at the FCS level for the Bison in the last 7 years. And Colorado, despite being at Folsom Field in Boulder, is only about a touchdown and a hook favorite. It's a game Colorado must win. It's a game that will put out so many reactions regardless of the result. If Colorado makes a statement, the Buffs are back. If the Bison win, it's an unshaky start to year number 2 of the Deion Sanders era in Boulder.
Absolutely. And I love that, too, because we are going to watch that football game for all the wrong reasons and a lot of the right reasons, where you're just looking to get down on a wager on that game, but you want to see how good Sanders is in year number 2 here at Colorado. But you're right about that. It's usually you get the layup. You play a Bethune-Cookman. You pay a team, a Northwest directional school at this point, not an FCS champion who you know is not going to be too big for the moment when they step on the field at Folsom Field to take on the Buffaloes. That'll be a fun one to watch, and you're right. We had a referendum last year when Colorado won game 1 against TCU. Oh, my God, Deion might run the table. Look what he did overnight. This is impressive. And they sort of rode that momentum, and then we started to see, closer games against teams like Colorado State where they probably should have lost to, quite frankly, last year. It's like, okay, maybe they're not as good as we thought they were. And Ben pointed out that collapse at the end of the season. It's up to them to get off to another hot start, because you're right about this. Colorado's expected to win game number 1 against an FCS opponent. If they lose that game, it just feels like open season on Colorado, both Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders at that point. So when you're talking about entering in your first game, which you want to get 1-0 off on the right foot, there's a lot of animosity heading up to that game, and you're playing a quality opponent here, not a layup.
And Donnie is right. We need villains in sport. Whether justified or not, Colorado has kind of become that role in college football. We saw it represented last year. Dan Lanning with the famous pregame speech, we play for wins, they play for clicks, and they went out and absolutely ran through Colorado 42-6, week number 4 in Eugene. Deion is building his program, whether he wants to or not, to be the team that everybody ramps up to 11 to play, to be the team that week in and week out is not your national championship contender, but is going to get that best shot, is going to get full attention. That will be the case for the Buffs, not just week number 1 against North Dakota State, but each and every week all year long. How does that impact their win total of 5.5, their overall success of trying to reach bowl eligibility? How does it impact the draft stock of one Shedeur Sanders, who Deion also took to social media yesterday to remind everybody his son is about to be a top 5 pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And based on the odds makers, Deion Sanders is not wrong. Shedeur Sanders, second best price to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft at plus 450. Now $1.50 behind Carson Beck. Donnie, there is no doubt there was a ton of attention paid to this specific market, because when we looked at these odds yesterday, getting ready for the show to inform the conversation around all of the social media chatter that had been caused by Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders, there was a 3-way tie for the best price to be that number 1 overall selection next year. Carson Beck, Georgia's quarterback. Quinn Ewers, Texas's quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, Colorado's QB, all at 5-1. A ton of movement in this market. Not quite kind to Quinn Ewers, and Shedeur Sanders now the second best price.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this play out because we did hear the rumblings of Deion Sanders going like, well, make no mistake about it, he's going to be a high pick, but we're going to pick exactly where he goes, which doesn't set a great precedent here because it's usually a job interview. You put your best foot forward and the team higher up takes you because they like you as a quarterback and you can be the face of the franchise. So one thing we do know, Shedeur Sanders is a talent. If you just put on the film of him throwing footballs, it's as pretty as it gets, technologically sound, everything looks good, but then you have to say to yourself, because it always comes down to this, if you have player A and player B, they are absolutely identical. Do you want what might come with the off-season and shoot stuff, which means like Deion Sanders on Twitter on a Monday morning after his kid played a professional game, questioning the head coach and what they're actually doing? That's going to be part of that equation here. But the one thing we can't deny, Shedeur is a really good quarterback, and rightfully so. If he has a good season, he'll be a top 5 because why? Good quarterbacks always go in the top 5. We just saw 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12. He's going to be a high draft pick, but it's also about mentioning how much that wild ride is going to be when we're taking a look at Caleb Williams, who's a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and picking him apart as one of the best quarterbacks we've seen over the past 20 years. I can imagine now what we're going to do to Shedeur after the season is over.
We heard from NFL draft scouts through Ian Rappaport on day 3 of the NFL draft that Spencer Rattler's performance in a Netflix documentary series when he was a senior in high school was the lasting image of why he did not go day number 2. Now, the key for Colorado, strictly in a football sense, and at a point, the talk will not be about what is happening off the field, but on the field, is keeping Shedeur Sanders upright. Sacked 49 times last year. The Buffs overall allowed the second most sacks in college football at the FBS level a season ago, 56 in total. But if you have a top 5 pick, you need to see the wins back it up. The Buffs just a 5.5 win total. A big day in college athletics late last night. The transfer portal has closed. Kind of. We'll talk about it next.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cash the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, well, let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from what's not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only one day between the 2 games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Coaches across the country, that sound you hear, have just breathed a sigh of relief. Well, at least we think. Yesterday, officially, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, the transfer portal in college basketball, that spring window has come to a close. Now, with that being said, you might see some updates over the next few days of insert X name player entering the transfer portal as the reports become more official, because it just had to be any indication last night, a text, a call, something that you intended on entering the transfer portal. And of course, people that are already in the portal that have not selected their next destination still can do that whenever they would like over these summer months. But we start with college football. Donnie, I just saw the stat that we saw there for Colorado. They have signed 72 players in the 2023 cycle, high school athletes or players out of the transfer portal. 61% of those 72 no longer on the roster. 34 players in for Colorado football this year, 44 out. It is the way that Deion Sanders has constructed his roster. Will it pay dividends? That remains to be seen. But as we go to college football, an interesting time in this spring transfer portal window following spring ball, because there's still some openings to be filled that we saw yesterday, right before the window came to a close. This also features some names that we saw enter the transfer portal following the end of the 2023 college football season. That was back in December and early January. Big names here involved that will forecast into next year. Dylan Gabriel, the new quarterback for Oregon. Donnie's guy, Cam Ward, the new quarterback at Miami. The Canes have made some splashes here in the transfer portal this spring. Will it meet with success on the field? Caden Proctor left Alabama to return to his home state of Iowa, to only leave Iowa and go back to Alabama. Alabama lost a lot in terms of talent from last year. Isaiah Bond now at Texas. Caleb Downs, the SEC Freshman of the Year, now at Ohio State. Quinshon Judkins also to Ohio State as well. Some impact transfers at the highest level, DRS, that will hope to help their program in this new era of college football starting in 2024.
Yeah, most of these kids probably going to chances they think will elevate their career and also elevate their bank accounts, because that's what it is. If you are a college kid worth anything, going into your freshman year and playing well, you should be in the transfer portal every single year. And Ben also brought up a point, that new age of college athletics where the coaches breathe a sigh of relief. It used to be, Ben, boy, I got to recruit these high school kids, but once I got them on campus, they're not leaving here. I don't have to worry about them again. You have to re-recruit your entire team on a year-to-year basis now at this point here in college basketball and also in college football. And also, I laugh sometimes at this, like Quinshon Judkins. What was his complaint about being in the SEC and getting the football whenever he wanted to score 1 million touchdowns? It wasn't good enough to go to Ohio State. Now, if you say, look, I think Ohio State can legitimately win a national championship, I'll go there and get paid. I get that. But when he was transferring, I'm like, why is he transferring? He's got everything he wants down there, including a maniac coach that designs a game plan that gives him the football so he can lead the charge. So crazy times in college football, but it just is what it is.
Travion Henderson still in Columbus as well, but really it comes from Ohio State's NIL collective, who saw Michigan win a national championship and said, not on our watch, never again. They have invested fully into making this Ohio State roster that returns so much talent as well as good as possible. Big time in the spring transfer portal window for college hoops as well. A couple of really big names. Umar Ballo leaves Arizona, goes to Indiana. The Hoosiers and Mike Woodson need to go deep in the dance. They've got the best portal class in 2024. John L. Davis, of course, who came to fame for FAU, does not follow his head coach Dusty May to Michigan, but goes with John Calipari to Arkansas. Some other big names that you saw there as well. Mark Pope, a big transfer class. Kentucky, the third best transfer portal class in the country, behind only Indiana and Kansas for your new head coach, DRS in Lexington.
Yeah, bringing in guys that nobody's ever heard of before, saying, this is the best college shoot I've ever seen. Where's he from? Dayton. Yeah, I could probably outshoot the kid from Dayton. How about that? And I'm 46.
No, you couldn't. He was 47% from deep, was Kobe Bryant, the best three-point shooter in the country last year. You're at least 50 from deep.
They don't call me Sam Hauser for nothing, pal. Come on.
Listen, Sam Hauser was great last night, 5 of 8. If you're 50% DRS, you're 1 of 2. Nothing better than that.
Yeah. Yep, the best. Look, I should be in the transfer portal right now, but I don't know if you know what? Division 3 is kind of shady. I might have a year of eligibility out there somewhere. I never took a redshirt year, so bring it on.
Let's get Donnie right side. The next Ricky Pearsall back on the field in college football. Woo! We'll hear from JY, our coach, up next.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cash the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, well, let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from what's not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the two games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Around the association we go. A doubleheader last night in the NBA postseason. 2 more games tonight with clinching potential in each spot. So for the next half an hour, it's the scouting report from our coach, James Young, JY, live right here on this Thursday on the early line. JY, thank you for being here to break down everything. A recap from last night, a preview and breakdown of what is to come on this Thursday.
Yeah, 2 games last night and 2, I would say, blowouts. So hopefully we get a little bit better basketball the next couple of days.
Listen, each game decided by at least 30 points. We maybe thought that was going to be the case inside TD Garden in Boston. Probably not what we expected in Los Angeles, but that's what happened. The Mavericks win and cover. 2.5-point, 3-point road favorite. They win by 30. 123-93 in L.A. The Clippers without Kawhi Leonard. But, JY, that's been the case 2 previous times in this series. In both times without Kawhi, the Clippers won the game. That included game number 4 on Sunday in Dallas. As Dallas wins game 5 last night by 30, what was the difference in game number 5?
Well, obviously, Luka Doncic. Luka was sick. Luka doesn't feel well. Luka's hurt. Luka almost messed around and got a triple-double last night, getting you 35 and 10. And here's the thing. He's still struggling from 3-band a little bit, only shooting 2 of 8 from the 3-point line. But they absolutely, jumped them in the second and third and fourth quarters after the game was kind of close after 1. They just kept extending their lead. I just think Kyrie also played a different style of game after scoring a ton of points. He got more guys involved, getting over his assist prop, which was 4.5, which I loved yesterday. So they got better play, obviously, out of Luka, not from 3, but overall. And then getting more points production, from the bench. Lively giving you 12 and 7. He's starting to play a lot better basketball as he's getting more minutes. Maxi Kleber getting 15 points as well. You're getting 14 out of Hardy. I mean, they just all played well compared to a Clipper team that just came back down to earth. And, to me, this is an interesting series because it's kind of going back and forth. Can Dallas turn around and close it out in game number 6 and avoid a game 7?
Yeah, by the way, you take a look at the game last night. Harden and George throwing clunkers in that after going wild from three-point range. And as a team, they only shot 25% overall. Now, as we look at the series in itself, game 6 coming up, home court advantage now for the Mavericks. They look to wrap it up. And by all intents and purposes, looking at that future line for game number 6, we don't think we're going to get Kawhi Leonard back. So let's just say, Coach, Kawhi Leonard doesn't come back. Is this series just a formality, even though we have seen the Clippers win on the road against the Mavericks here?
We have, but I do think Dallas, to me, is a better team. It's also a very bad matchup for the Clippers, just for the simple part of defensively, they don't have the guards that can stop, Luka and Kyrie. And at any given point, one of them is going to go off. And let's be honest, Donnie, they could both go off. I mean, Kyrie only had 14 points. He only took, 14 shots. So to me, that's the problem you have with the Clippers is their ability to get stops defensively is going to be a problem. And take away Kawhi, not just what he does offensively, Donnie, but being their best defender as well. That's kind of like a double-edged sword you're taking away from the Clippers. So to me, if you're Dallas, you don't want to play with your food. You want to go home. You want to finish this out and get it done in 6. There's no reason why you want this to go 7. Could they win in 7? Yes. Do you want it to go 7? Of course not. I like Dallas to win game number 6 and close it out.
You see it right there, minus 310 for Dallas to win in 6 games. That's the money line price as well. Now for game number 6 tomorrow night in Dallas between the Mavs and the Clips. So as we keep it going here, JY, game number 5 yesterday in Boston as well. The Celtics a 14-point home favorite against Miami. Maybe there was some hope because the last time these two teams met up inside TD Garden, the Heat pulled off the upset, making a franchise playoff best 23 threes. Last night, only 3 made threes for the Heat, and Boston wins by 34, 118-84, easily covering as a 14-point home favorite. What did you learn in this series, if anything, from what was really the expected outcome between the C's and the shorthanded Heat?
That when Boston shows up and plays, no one's got a shot to beat them in the East. I mean, the gap between 1 and 2 is so huge in the Eastern Conference. And to me, when you look at Boston, what's getting intriguing is, I want to call it the elevation. It's just the fact that if Tatum doesn't give you a great night, you would get worried at times. What Derek White has done these last 2 games have been phenomenal. I mean, getting you 25 last night, 38 the game before that. They just have another added dimension where they could get points. And I think that becomes a problem, Ben, because usually when you start looking at teams, you're like, okay, where can we slide off of? Who do we have to not worry about as much? Well, you can't do that with Boston because they have, and that includes Drew Holiday, who hasn't even gone off yet. You got 4 starters that can give you 20 at any point. So it's almost like what Joe Mazzulla is able to do is he's able to look at the mismatches and attack it off the mismatch that he sees fit. And I just look at Derek White's game and just being absolutely fantastic. They shoot the ball incredibly well from 3, 40%. What they're getting out of Sam Hauser, who I loved, over 1.5 made threes. I know it was a lot of juice, but 5 made threes. He's giving them something. Pritchard off the bench. It's almost like when you look at that bench now with Hauser and Pritchard, they kind of remind you of those old Warrior teams where those guys go to the bench and the lead doesn't drop. It stays there or increases because of that second unit. The play of Hauser, the play of Pritchard has been really, really well. They're going to need Porzingis. Looks like maybe not to the Eastern Conference Finals, but this team, Ben, they are humming right now.
Yeah, you like the fact when you take a look at the Celtics also, where I always talk about that game number 2. You got our attention now, right? Miami Heat, you won that basketball game. Now we're going to refocus. And they destroyed them in games 3, 4, and certainly in game number 5. They'll have some time off. But let's talk about Porzingis here, because moving forward, I don't think they technically need him for the next round. And quite frankly, maybe they don't even need him in the Eastern Conference. But I truly believe to win an NBA championship, they need him playing effective and being in that rotation. But moving forward, how do you treat this Porzingis injury if you are the Celtics? Celtics? Do you shut them down for the maximum timeout? Because we're watching teams right now like the Bucks who are in playoff peril. They're resting their superstars to the very last minute at this point. Kawhi Leonard for the Clippers, we don't know if he's coming back. When do we think we're getting Porzingis back? And also, Coach, from a perspective of winning a championship, do they need Porzingis back even before the NBA Finals?
I think that's tough to say because it's really about what Al Horford can give you. You know, if you look at the next series, it's really going to depend on who they play. I think Cleveland will pose a more of a difficult problem because of the double-edged sword of the big men of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen as compared to, let's say, Wendell Carter Jr. and Paolo Banchero. So it's all about the matchups. When they get to let's say, the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Let's kind of take a look at it. If it's a team like Milwaukee, it doesn't really matter because, you know, Brook Lopez goes outside, so does Porzingis. The one that comes interesting is the Knicks. If the Knicks get there, we don't even know if the Knicks are going to get by Philadelphia because I think they played with their food and they may be in trouble going into tonight's game in Philadelphia. We'll talk about that next segment. But to me, Knicks are a difficult team to play against. But for the Knicks, it becomes a disadvantage because now you take someone like Mitchell Robinson out of the game. So to me, it's more about the styles make fights, right? Where does Porzingis really hurt? It's for teams that don't have bigs to go out and defend the three-point line, a.k.a. like a Mitchell Robinson of the Knicks.
So, JY, let me ask you this very quickly. When you look at the NBA title odds, it's been the expected outcome. It's going to be Boston versus Denver. So what do you think is more likely, Celtics versus Nuggets or any other team still alive in the NBA postseason reaching the NBA Finals?
I think we're Celtics versus Nuggets. I think that's what we're lining up for. But, I mean, guys, we can't discount what we've seen out of OKC so far. I mean, and that's going to be intriguing. They're going to be going into that finals, maybe Western Conference Finals, and maybe that matchup, that 2-3 matchup, is going to be a dogfight between Minnesota and Denver. Maybe that's the best way forward. Maybe Oklahoma City could sneak their way in.
There is some value out there just because of the short numbers on Boston and Denver. We preview tonight. Up next.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cash the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from what's not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the two games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I guess JY's on the train down to Philadelphia as he was for game number 3 here for game 6 tonight. Oh, there he is. I think we hear him. He's rustling. He's getting ready to go live right here on this Thursday on the early line. And it's good, JY, because Donnie and I have already given our reactions to game number 5, the Tyrese Maxey 46-point game inside Madison Square Garden to get us ready for game number 6. But we see the hand on the head and the face. JY, the Knicks were up by 6, 96-90. Under 30 seconds remaining in regulation just a few nights ago inside the Garden. Then Tyrese Maxey happened. Damn the 2-minute report. Give us a 48-minute report if you're going to come out and say you blew a call in a critical juncture that I don't even really think was a blown call. But regardless, what happened was Tyrese Maxey, the 4-point play, the 3-pointer from the logo that forced overtime, and Philly wins in OT. What was your instant reaction of how game 5 between the Knicks and the 76ers inside the Mecca came to a close?
I got to make sure I give the G-rated version because there was a lot of curse words being thrown out there as the coach. And let's be honest, folks, it's so much more than the shot. There were so many things, Ben, that led up to the comedy of errors that the Knicks had. Number 1, 6-point lead, Deuce hits the shot, right? You think it's over. First rule that you teach your players, never foul a jump shooter. So what does Mitchell Robinson do? He tries to block a shot. And then we also tell our kids, if you're going to try and block a shot, don't let the ball get to the rim. Now, I'm not saying you got to Joel Embiid like smack in the face like he did to Brunson for that flagrant foul or late in overtime, but you foul, you let the ball get to the basket. There's a 4-point play. There's mistake number 1, right? Number 2, you should have your best free throw shooter should be Jalen Brunson, should never give up the ball, right? That's mistake number 2. Mistake number 3, Josh Hart misses the free throw. Mistake number 4, does Tibbs make a mistake here? And even though he's a better defender, Deuce McBride in a big spot, not knowing the situation. Tibbs wants the foul. I understand that Tyrese Maxey shot a 35-footer. As soon as he crosses half court, wrap him up, put him to the line, make him make one, miss the second, get the rebound for the putback. It's the hardest thing to do to practice it. So to me, it was a comedy of errors by the Knicks and regulation, but you got to give Maxey props. But Ben, it gets better. They get to overtime up 5. And you start to see what I'm starting to call Randall Ball Part 2, which is give the ball to Jalen Brunson, don't run any offense, and save us. And that's what hurt the Knicks again. So we're going to have to see Tibbs better down the stretch, but you got to give Maxey credit. That was an all-time, like, Reggie Miller-esque in the Garden performance by Tyrese.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to watch it from a Sixers fan there and also from a Sixers perspective with 30 seconds
left.
Wait
a minute. You're not going to hijack this segment. No, it was not a
Hold
good
on a
segment.
second, though. Hold on a second. We got to give him credit because he stayed up for all of the Sixers and Knicks game. He was ready to turn it off, JY, under 30 seconds with the Knicks up by 6, thinking this game was over. So we have to give Donnie credit. He stayed awake for the entirety of that thrilling Game 5 victory.
It's his fault. You should have been in bed right side and would have been a 15-point Knick win. I know you're not staying up tonight. It's 9 o'clock.
Oh, I'm not.
There's no.
Don't get him started yet. Don't get him
9
started yet
o'clock
on that.
the East Coast. Like, you know what? I was going to actually ask you a question here on this game itself, but Coach, let's get back to the real meaning here. It's a 9 o'clock start here when you have the Bucks and the Pacers at 6:30. Please make it make sense. Does the NBA not want to watch this game that's going to be tonight? By the way, we called this series out from the beginning, even though right now the Knicks have the upper hand and can close it out tonight. Every game has been competitive and competitive with absolute nonsense going on down the stretch, and I expect nothing less than that to happen tonight. So if we are looking at the game tonight, that starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. The Sixers are a favorite here. The FanDuel Sportsbook opened at a 4.5-point favorite towards the Sixers, down to 3, and look at that total. 200.5. JY, Philadelphia, Game 6 on the line. What happens tonight?
Well, first things first, Donnie, while you'll be in bed by 7:30 p.m., the Xfinity Center down this block for Wells Fargo is going to be rocking. People are going to Chicky and Pete's, get a beer and some crab fries. I do know like chicken pizza. It's very good crab fries, by the way. But anyway, when you get to the game, to me, it's about a couple of things. For the Knicks, what kind of start did they get off to? They've gotten to extremely poor starts. There's been talk up here about, do you start Deuce McBride, who's played much better than Dante DiVincenzo? Number 2 for New York, what do you do with the substitution, particularly of Brunson and Hart? They seem to be fading down the stretch. I think you will see actually McBride and DiVincenzo play a little bit together in the backcourt. Their offensive rating's actually been pretty good together, although those are the minutes that Joel Embiid is out. That takes me to Embiid. How do you do your breaks for Joel Embiid? Because the Sixers, with him on the floor and then with him off the floor, are markedly different. How does Nick Nurse use his timeouts to maximize rest for Embiid, but not game rest, meaning minutes off the floor? And then also, Tobias Harris was much better to start game number 5. This is the guy that Philadelphia we talked about before game 5.
Mm-hmm.
They want to run this guy out of town. He got off to a good start, and they're going to need his production because I do not think Tibbs is going to allow Maxey to get 46, and I'm concerned about the health of Joel Embiid.
So the scouting report from JY, those are the keys, those are the adjustments for game number 6. Now time for a prediction. Is the series over tonight in Philadelphia with the Knicks winning this opening round set, or will we go back to Madison Square Garden for a winner-take-all game 7 on Saturday night?
Ben, I started before this series saying Knicks in 6. I'm holding to it. Knicks in 6. They get a much better game from their team, and I'm concerned that I don't know if Joel Embiid makes it all the way to the finish line. Knicks win by about 7 or 8 points tonight.
A lot of tired legs, more than likely, for guys that played 50-plus minutes just 2 nights ago inside Madison Square Garden. The Knicks plus 130 on the money line at this moment. And as we shared, that total 200 and a hook. But it's the nightcap in Philadelphia. Game number 1 of the doubleheader in Indianapolis. Can the Pacers close out the Bucks? Find out next.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cash the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the 2 games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
A doubleheader of Game 6s tonight in the NBA, where both spots are a potential closeout. The New York Knicks up 3-2 on the road in Philly. Indiana returns home to game number 6 against the Bucks. Of course, the Pacers had an opportunity earlier this week to close out Milwaukee in Game 5, as the Bucks did not have Giannis nor Dame. That is the expectation as of right now for game number 6. So JY, who is here for a third consecutive segment, 8.5-point spread. Now in favor of the Pacers back at home in Indy, total at 214. Is this the time? Do the Pacers finish this series against Milwaukee tonight?
I think so. I just thought they got great performances, Milwaukee, particularly Bobby Portis. Remember, folks, Bobby Portis did get thrown out, I do believe, of game number 4 of the series very early on in the game. So Bobby Portis was actually fantastic, 29 and 12. Middleton with another double-double. Maybe look at that market again for Middleton for a double-double, because one thing's for sure, Brook Lopez and double-doubles, they just do not happen. So make sure you take a look at that, folks. But I think you'll just get a better performance out of Indiana. They should be able to play with more pace at home. Siakam, who had been great this entire series, was not good, a minus 18 in game number 5. I expect him to be better. Halliburton's got himself going a little bit. I expect a bigger game out of Miles Turner, who had a great game in game number 4. I think Indiana gets the job done. And here's the thing, folks. It's very simple. If you like the Pacers, play the over. If you like the Bucks, play the under, because they correlate with each other. Milwaukee needs to slow the game down and play the game in half court. I think Indiana's going to run the ball up the court. Remember, folks, they go over this number. I think every game but 4 or 5, the entirety of the season, home games, they go over this number. So I'm going to play with pace. I like Indiana to win. I like Indiana to cover. And I like Indiana game to go over tonight.
It's disappointed last game, Coach, out of the Pacers. You see that first quarter, 31-23. You should have had a dead team beat at that point, but you let them get back into it. 30-17, they won the second quarter, talking about the Bucks, and then 34-19 in the third quarter. It almost felt to me like after that first quarter, the Pacers were like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. We're going home for game 6. So talk about the pressure on the Pacers, because all we keep hearing is we're seeing Giannis and also Dame get closer and closer to returning. Is that pressure could be too much of a buildup where the Pacers look like they said, don't worry about the last game. Game 6 is our building. We'll handle it. Close to double-digit favorites here. Talk about the pressure that might be on the Pacers early to establish themselves knowing, look, we can't go to a game 7 here and risk it.
Well, Donnie, more than anything, to be quite honest with you, is the hardest game to win is the last one. That's always the toughest one to win in a series, because the other team's backs are against the wall. But if you kind of look at it, guys, if you look at, I think it was game number 3 or 4, it was also a huge lead for Indiana after the first quarter, 18 points, and they blew it. This is a team that, because of their defensive inabilities, are going to give up swings and runs. It's just a matter of, can they punch back when the run happens? And we're able to do so and almost blew that game 4. I think they'll do a better job of game 6 because it's in their home building. So there's a way that you can play this game multiple times, and maybe this is a big lead after 1, and maybe the Bucks do make this a game. But I still expect Indiana and Rick Carlisle to continue to play with pace for 48 minutes to try and drive this thing home and get themselves to the next round.
JY is spot on. Indiana's 3 wins in this series. The total has gone to the over. The Pacers have scored at least 120 points in all 3 victories. Sure, game 3 needed overtime to get us the game total over and Indiana into the 120s. But that is Pacers basketball, living up to their name and playing with that fast tempo and the advanced pace. I will say something that stands out to me when you look at those series odds. Again, Indiana, big favorite tonight, 8.5-point home favorite to win this game outright. It's around a minus 340 price on the money line. But in 7, the Bucks in 7 is a shorter number than the Pacers in 7. If the game were to go back to the Pfizer Forum on Saturday, would that allow more of a time for Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard to return? Would they be there? Just follow what the odds makers are saying. JY, enjoy the doubleheader of action that we have on this Thursday. Send Donnie some text when he's fast asleep as you're watching Knicks and Sixers.
Well, we know one thing's for sure. If we talk tomorrow, I won't be able to recap the game because I'm actually going to watch it. Let's just hope the Knicks win. Otherwise, you may not have me tomorrow. I may be sleeping.
Don't have
in
to
myself.
watch tonight. Sixers win easy. Don't watch, people. Sixers win easy. See Game 7.
Donnie's great at recapping regardless if his eyeballs were on it. We go to hour 3 in just over 2 minutes.